Welcome back to r/EntitledPeople, where we read stories from our own subreddit about insanely stuck up entitled people that will infuriate you. Without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. Entitled coworker screams at me for not respecting her as my superior. Surprise. Last year I got a job at a daycare working in the 1-year-old's room. I had never worked in a daycare before, but I have lived my whole life taking care of children and babies in every other environment possible. Schools, nurseries, babysitting, raising my 11 siblings for my mom, and now I am a mom of 3 myself, so childcare has literally been part of my identity for as long as I can remember. Besides that, I also train dogs, horses, cats and anything with a brain, so I was really good with the tiny humans who needed a gentle introduction to functioning under the rules of planet Earth. I was hired as the assistant teacher in the morning and head teacher in the afternoon when my head teacher would go teach the after-school class. But this was not fully explained to me, so I thought I was just the assistant teacher for the first week. I would be alone during nap time when I would do paperwork and organize stuff. Then, as the kids were waking up, another worker would come in to help me for the last 3 hours of the day. 2 days a week it was just whoever was not doing anything else, and 3 days a week it was a woman I will call Lena. Lena was an old Italian grandmother with a big voice and loud opinions. She made it very clear that this was her class and her kids, and she knew everything about daycares because she had been working in them for 25 years. She would remind everyone of this fact 5 times a day. Some of what she did made me uncomfortable, but I chalked it up to her being from a different generation and culture and tried to get along. One thing she did that I could not overlook though was when she got angry with a child who was doing something wrong, she would scream at him or her suddenly, and if that did not scare them away from their mischief, she would march over, pick them up by their arm and carry them across the room like that. I did not know if that was illegal or not, but I knew for sure that a child's arm could easily pop out of socket, so I brought it up. I asked if she was worried their arms would put out of socket when she did that, and I got a long lecture about how they were tougher than they look and they are not the boss. Unsure what to do, I spoke with my boss about it after Lena had gone home for the day, and she was shocked and horrified. She tried to check the cameras but discovered that the camera was broken due to water damage from the roof. Just great. She told me next time Lena does something like that, I had full authority to correct her since I was in charge of the room during the afternoons. This was the first I was hearing of this since I was hired as the assistant teacher and assumed that since Lena had been here longer that she was in charge after my head teacher left. My boss informed me that this was not the case and that I was in fact the afternoon head teacher and was responsible for Lena's actions while she worked in my class. If a child got hurt, it would be my fault for not stopping her. That scared me and empowered me at the same time, and starting the next day, I did my best to correct her unsafe habits as non-confrontationally as I could, but was met with arguments all the way. I corrected her habit of putting large, heavy toys on top of the toy shelf where the kids could pull them down on themselves. She said,
"That's the way I always do it. I'm not changing for nobody."
When she would turn away the guy with the vacuum cleaner, saying we did not need to vacuum today, I would stop the guy and say, "Actually, I will need to vacuum, thank you." She would roll her eyes and say,
"You do it, I'm not doing it."
When I baby-proofed the cabinets, the changing table and the trash cans, she complained loudly to everyone about what a pain in the butt that was. Then, one day, a little girl woke up from naps with a nightmare. You could tell it was not just fuzzy naptime crying. I mean, she just jumped out of a dead sleep and started screaming in terror. I picked her up, rocked her and sang to her, trying to calm her down and make her feel safe again. Lena came in early in the middle of it and told me to put the baby down. I said, no, she had a nightmare. Lena started getting frustrated with me and said,
"If you don't put her down, she's going to start crying to be held all the time, and I'm not holding her if she does that."
"You won't have to," I responded. "I'm the one here all day with them. I can tell when she's just crying for attention and when something is actually wrong." She huffed and said,
"Well, I'm here now. You can go on break."
She said it like an order. I shook my head and continued to walk around with the trembling baby and said, "My break is not until 2:30. I can have her back asleep before then." Lena scowled at me and did not say anything else as I rocked the baby in a figure-8 dance that always works. Sure enough, she fell asleep and I laid her back on her cot, covered her with her blanket and collected my things and left, like I could not feel the ice daggers in the back of my head. When I came back from break, it was snack time and I knew I would have to face off Lena again. There had been a change in policy since I had been hired that said the 1-year-olds could not be in high chairs and had to learn to sit in toddler chairs at a table. None of us agreed with this new rule, but we were dealing with it the best we could. I showed my head teacher some shaping techniques we use when training animals, and we started using them with the kids to teach them how to sit in the chairs properly. If the child was sitting on their butt, facing forward, we would clap and say, "Yay, you're sitting the right way, good job," and make a huge fuss over them. If they tried to stand up in the chair, we would say, "Oh, can you sit the right way?" and then sit them down safely and cheer as if they did it all themselves. After a few days of doing this, the babies would start to stand up in a chair, stop themselves, plop down on their butts and immediately start clapping with a big grin, knowing they did it right. When they did that, they got lots of hugs and kisses and all, but had a parade in their honor. It worked beautifully. Lena, however, hated any time the kids were in the chairs, even if they sat correctly, which really confused them and set back our training a bit. A baby would plop down, look up with a smile and be met with Lena's scream of,
"Get out of that chair!"
Their poor faces were startled and confused because they thought they would be praised and got the exact opposite. I knew this was going to happen again and I would have to correct Lena and endure a lecture about why I was wrong. So I braced myself. This day I came back from break and I could tell Lena was still mad at me for rocking the baby when she told me not to. But I tried to move on and have a good day until I heard it.
"Get out of the chair!"
And a baby started crying. I rushed over to comfort the baby, picking him up to try and reset the experience. I said, "Actually, Lena, the head teacher and I have been teaching them how to sit in the chair safely like this." And I sat the baby down in the chair and clapped for him as he smiled, so proud of himself. I looked up to see what her reaction would be and she exploded.
"Why you always gotta mock me?"
She screamed louder than ever. "I'm sorry?" I asked.
"Everything I do, you gotta mock me. You have no respect. You should know I've been doing this for 25 years and I know more about babies than you ever will. And I'm older than you."
I started shaking. I don't do well when people yell at me, so I tried to steady my voice and said, "I didn't mean to offend you. I can see why you felt disrespected, and I'm sorry. I'm just trying to make sure the kids are okay." She yelled,
"I don't need your help knowing what they need. I've been doing this 25 years. Ain't nobody telling me what to do."
I just said, "Got it," and in my head thought, "Oh nope, this won't work out." We did not speak another word to each other for the rest of the evening, and when our boss came in to tell us one of us could leave, Lena just picked up her bag and marched out while holding her head up so she would not look at me. As she left, my boss raised her eyebrows and came in asking, "What was that about?" I burst into tears because I'm a wimp and told her everything that happened. My boss was a sweet lady and her lips were set firm as she listened. She said, "You were absolutely in the right. She had no business yelling at you. And I want you to know I'm going to talk to her tomorrow and make sure she knows you are the one in charge. Not her. I trust you and I support your methods of how to handle these kids. And if she cannot accept you as her superior, we will have to make other arrangements for her." She also added that she hates it when someone uses their age as an excuse to do something wrong and just because they have been doing it wrong for a long time did not make it right. I nodded, humiliated that I could not handle the stress of being yelled at by a grandma, but grateful to have the kind of boss who stood up for me. The next day rolled in and I dreaded when Lena would be back. I heard her voice as she clocked in during nap time and went to relieve other teachers for their breaks. About an hour later, my boss came in and filled me in on how it went. "Boss, hey Lena, how's it going in OP's class?" Lena,
"Oh, it's going great. She's getting the hang of things."
"Boss, so did something happen yesterday that you want to tell me about?" Lena, "No, what do you mean?" My boss pointed out that she realized Lena was not going to volunteer any information, so she just came out with it. Boss, I talked to OP yesterday and it seems the two of you had an incident. I would like to hear your side of the story. I don't know exactly what Lena said here, but basically my boss said she confirmed my story with embellishments of how disrespectful and snarky I am, so she ripped into me and told me what was what. My boss said she seemed proud of herself. Boss said she explained the order of authority in that room, starting with head teacher in the morning, with me underneath her as the assistant, and then when head teacher leaves, the assistant takes over as the head and there was a new assistant. Boss said to her, so when you come in, OP is the head teacher and she's responsible for making sure everything runs the right way. Lena exploded, less dramatically, at boss and said,
how's OP in charge? She ain't got no experience.
My boss just said, oh, yes she does, and shut her down. Lena then asked,
well, okay, how would you handle a child climbing in a chair?
Boss replied, I would sit the child down and encourage them to sit the right way so they learn to do it safely. Lena said,
well, that's not the way I did it all the time I've worked in daycare.
Boss just said, well, times have changed. After that, Lena was sugary sweet to me as if nothing had ever happened and we never had any more issues. She would even try to buddy up to me, saying,
you're a great teacher. I will tell anybody who asks.
I did not question it, I was just glad to finally get rid of the drama. Did you ever have such an annoying entitled coworker at your workplace? Let us know in the comments. My coworker called my dad at 9 AM because I did not answer her text. So this story happened this past weekend and now my manager is running around finding out what exactly happened. At work, this has been dubbed
the perfect storm.
But this is only a small part of it. This was a shift that I was originally supposed to work, but the schedule had been changed so me and a coworker could switch Saturdays. It is the second busiest shift of the year and it is 7.5 hours long. I had just finished 11 days straight of working and had gone over my allowed hours 2 weeks in a row. The whole day became a nightmare to the point that our manager interviewed everyone in staff to find out what happened. After my manager interviewed me, she decided to tell me about the interview with E. The cast is E, my almost boomer age coworker, M, my awesome manager, me, the lazy millennial. Interview, manager, okay, so in your own words, just tell me your side of Saturday. E,
I woke up and my back was out of sync, so I text messaged Cheryl for coverage.
M, alright. E,
she did not answer, so I called her father.
Wait, what?
Then she asked me to text CW1, who was helping someone move.
Can we just go back to...
Then she sent me the contact info for CW2, who was at an airport.
Can we get back to the...
Then she asked if I had texted CW3, so I did, and she was out of town.
E.
What?
You had Cheryl's father's phone number? Why did she give this to you?
To buy eggs from him.
So not for anything work related?
To buy eggs.
Okay, yes, I get that. And when she did not text back at 8:36 in the morning, you called her father. Before texting anyone else and not calling her? What about her home number? E.
Yes, I knew he would be up. Only millennials sleep past 7.
That was entirely inappropriate. You should not have called her father. Roughly half-hour long back and forth of E not understanding why she could not call my dad.
Okay, well, who did you leave in charge while you were on vacation?
No one? I shouldn't need to leave anyone in charge here.
Okay, but who did you leave in charge?
Okay, if the manager is gone, logic follows the director would still be able to answer questions about that section.
But who did you leave in charge?
Okay, putting that aside for now, why didn't you text or call anyone else after Cheryl did not answer?
Because she didn't answer.
Okay, so then you ask someone else.
But Cheryl did not answer.
And interview, now manager talking to me. So the thing that seemed the same in everyone's perspective is E made a wildly inappropriate call to your father, who is not listed as even an emergency contact for you, and bullied you into working for her before even contacting anyone else? Me? I guess yeah. I thought the call was pretty weird and would have yelled at her if not for our age difference and the emergency situation. My dad seemed kinda weirded out too, since she has had the number for months and never called for the ex. M, you never have to cover someone when you don't think you can, and it is not your job to handhold someone through finding coverage. This situation was the perfect storm of events, and me and director will be having a meeting with E, and hopefully she will understand how inappropriate her behavior was. Me, will she be in trouble? M, Hell yes, but that is her problem, not yours, and you don't need to worry about it. You just need to focus on yourself and remember, I am a text away if you need anything. At the next meeting, we will be putting a policy in place that for a day of coverage you call the coworker and for non-immediate coverage you text. The manager will also be reminding everyone that we can say no to shifts we are not scheduled for and we do not even have to give a reason. Hopefully, this chain of events will lead to our director finally admitting we are 2 people understaffed and she will see that outside of Saturdays no one can call out at any time without chaos happening. 6 people working 4 days of 4 shifts in a day and 2 days of 2 shifts does not work. And guys, I'm curious, did a similar situation ever happen at your workplace? Let us know in the comments. And if you have watched until here, please don't forget to post some star emojis in the comments and also like the video if you want to support me. Thank you so much for all your help. And the last one is titled, Entitled Coworker and Supervisor Cost the Company Thousands. For context, I work in a factory. In this factory, all our machines are set in different areas and each area is a numbered team. Aside from the managers of these teams and the supervisor they all reported to, we also had floating machine operators who would cover a team when there were not enough people. One of these would double as a trainer. About a year or so ago, we hired a girl who participated in some questionable and dumb behavior, which ranged between getting blackout drunk every single weekend and wasn't of age to drink, and accidentally taking 6 Xanax in the span of 8 hours because she had not read her medication's label and kept taking one nearly every hour because she had not felt it working yet. By the end of the workday, she was higher than a kite. She faltered in her work as an operator and made many dumb mistakes. We lost many parts due to her not paying attention, due to chatting or texting, and them falling off the end of the belt onto the floor. All parts that hit the floor must be scrapped. Sometimes I would catch her attempting to pack these scuffed parts to be shipped out and I would have to stop her. She typically had a perma-dumb expression etched onto her face, which consisted of wide eyes and lips pouted like a duck. Her claim to fame was that she had slept with almost every single guy at the last company she worked with. By the time she was fired, she was working on doing the same in our factory, a new guy every weekend. I will call her EC for Entitled Coworker, ES will be Entitled Supervisor, GC will be Good Coworker. EC had the hots for the manager of my team, but he was not interested, and while trying to get with him, she began to spread rumors about any girl he talked to, even if it was just for a second, claiming that the person was sleeping with him. This girl spread a lot of rumors about nearly everything and everyone, even me. It was ridiculous. She particularly did not like a friend of mine, a trainer, that my manager talked to the most. The two had a strictly platonic relationship, but it did not stop her from spreading more rumors about GC than anyone else endured, as well as sucking up to ES while bad-mouthing GC. Flirting with him to get on his good side, and he fell for it. Hook, line and sinker. Despite EC not yet being hired in and still in her 3-month probationary period, he ignored the hired in requirement for trainers and made up a reason to demote GC, then promoted EC to trainer. She had hardly been a good worker, but now he had her in a training position. People cautioned him against this, but he persisted. This, naturally, ended up backfiring immensely. GC was peeved. She had not really wanted the training position to begin with. Every supervisor before ES respected an operator's decision to not be moved to this position. Training is not for everyone, but ES had not. And now that she was finally enjoying where she was moved, he had yanked it away over a BS reason and given it to EC of all people. And then it happened. EC encountered an issue with one of the machines and went up to a manager to complain that the machine would not verify a part. You would place a part in a machine and it would use a special camera to verify the part was up to spec, then it would mark the part. It would not mark it if the part was bad. Sometimes the part was good and it just needed to be readjusted properly in the machine. She told him that even her trick was not working and the manager, now suspicious, asked her to explain. Apparently, EC had figured out a way to trick the cameras into verifying a part it had rejected if she placed her finger in front of it in a certain way. Today, it was not working. He was horrified. After further investigation, it was discovered she had taught every person she had ever trained to do this. These parts go into cars and a bad part could be dangerous. All the parts she and anyone she ever trained had to be recalled and looked through. Dozens of skids lined the aisles, stacked high from one side of the factory to the other. The process, which called for extra employees, cost the factory thousands, and weekly shipments were missed, which resulted in fines. She was fired. ES was gone shortly after to work for another company. Nearly every single person EC trained, save for one retrained by another operator who realized something was amiss, eventually ended up being fired by their managers because of her bad training. CG was begged by management to take the training position back, but she refused, threatening to quit if they made her do it again because she did not like how she was screwed over the first time, and it took them a while to find someone willing and capable. It took a while for the company to recover and put us in the red for the client that ordered those parts from us. And that, guys, is how a single coworker can almost single-handedly ruin a company. And with that, we have reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's content, and if you did, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel to join our amazing community. Furthermore, don't forget to go to r/RIPS stories on Reddit to post your own stories if you want me to read them out in a video. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I see you again tomorrow.